Howdy folks, and welcome back to another BrickGrid Blender beginner class. And today we're going to be carrying on looking at UV unwrapping, the book that we've been working on. I've been picked up on a couple of things by some of the learners, so let's address that. In the last video I explained about the normals, the surface normals of mesh faces. I didn't show you how to correct that if it was wrong, so I'm going to deliberately break this mesh box's normals, which I've now done. Let's get rid of that bottom window. So I'm just going to click on the join an area and say join area, point at the bottom. There we go. So let's see how the normals look on this box. I'm going to go up to the overlay panel and I'm going to choose face orientation from the overlay there. I've just put a tick in it, and you can see that we've got a red face. That means that the face of that mesh is actually pointing inwards towards the center of the box. We can verify that if I go back into edit mode here by going to the overlay, turning on my normals by clicking on this little one here. If I go to wireframe up here, you'll notice you can see that there's little blue lines pointing outwards from most of the faces, all of the blue coloured faces that we were looking at, but the red one is pointing in towards the middle of the box, which means if you imported this into a game engine or OpenSim or Second Life and you kind of looked at it, this red face would appear to be not there. It would appear to be transparent. You'd only see it if you kind of walked inside the blue box and looked towards the outside edge of the box, and then you would see it. But the way to correct normals, bad normals, in other words the red ones that we don't want to see, is just to make sure you've got it selected. So I'm still in face mode with that selected. You go up to the mesh menu, you go to normals, and then you say flip, and that will make it point in the other direction. So that's how to fix bad normals on an object. So something else that was pointed out to me, it's very important to do incremental saves. So before you, for example, apply a modifier to a mesh that might mess it up. It might not, but it might. So in that case, make sure that you've done a save as, and maybe just call the project or call the file, just maybe append a 1 to it, or a 2 or a 3, or whatever the file name is. Just make sure that you're not just working on one single file, because if it crashes and you lose it, then you're back to square one. So that said, let's get on with our book. So I'm going to go up to File, I'm going to open, I'm not going to save that, I'm going to get my book, which is in my desktop, my red book blend. I think it's that one. There we go. Okay, and it's turned off my screencast keys, so I'm just going to go up here, whoops, go up here and turn them back on for you so you can see what we're doing. Just going to choose the selection tool. I don't want to see this person sized cube, so I'm just going to press H and hide it, and I'm just going to get rid of that window at the bottom, join areas, drag it to the bottom. So here we've got our book with our material applied to it, and just like I said before, I'm going to do a save as, and because we're going to UV unwrap this book so that we can add a nice cover image to it, I'm going to call this my, and you need to put your cursor in the little red box, my UV unwrapped book blend. So I can save that, and now we know we've got a copy of it before we actually change anything, so that we can revert back to the old one if we need to. As I've been working on this file, I've noticed that this mesh does actually have a few problems that aren't apparent. and I can tell you what they are. If I select it and go into edit mode, and I press A to select all the vertices, I know that I've got some duplicate vertices, which means vertices which are exactly in the same 3D space but over the top of each other, so there's like more than one in exactly the same place, which can give you problems. So in order to resolve that, I'm going to go up to my overlays, my viewport overlay, and I'm just going to turn on statistics. Then you'll see statistics about the object that you've got selected up in the top left hand corner here, and it's telling me I've got one of 3 objects selected, and I've got 432 vertices. So I'm going to fix my duplicate vertices. I'm going to go to mesh, I'm going to go to merge, and then I'm going to say by distance, and just click on that. And if you look at the bottom of my screen in the middle, you'll see it says removed 34 vertices. So that's good. I'm now going to go to object mode, and I'm going to go up to object, and I'm going to apply scale and rotation and scale. That will just make sure that my mesh is scaled at 1, and I've also got my geometry point, or the point about which the geometry kind of rotates, if you like, set to the bottom of the, the middle of the middle bottom of the book. So, and to do that, if it's not like that on yours, you can select the book in object mode. You can go to set origin and just choose origin to 3D cursor if your cursor is still in the middle, on the bottom of the ground on the green and red axis. If it isn't, you can go to view, and you can go align view and center cursor and frame all. I've just zoomed out there unwittingly, so I'm going to press my full stop key, and that will make sure that the cursor is at the bottom, at the world 0 kind of coordinates. Great. So even though we've got materials applied to this book, we want to apply an image to it. So what we need to do first of all is UV unwrap the book. Now the easiest way for us to do that is to go to edit mode and face selection mode. I'm just going to select A few times just to deselect everything. I'm then going to press my C key, scroll my mouse wheel so I've got a little circular select, and I'm just going to, I've right clicked there just to undo the selection, and then I'm going to not undo the selection, to accept the selection. Now I'm going to press C again and carry on round, pressing the left button around the outside of my book. So I've got just these faces of the cover and the spine and the back cover selected. Now to UV unwrap it, you do need an active face, which means if I press down on shift and select just this, what will be the front cover of the book, that means that we're going to be able to unwrap that a little bit more easily. So let me get rid of that panel, let me just pull this out a little bit, make that a bit bigger, and I'm going to go up to the header and I'm going to set it to the UV editor. Now the UV unwrap that we've got here is not very good, it's not very intuitive. What I want is, I want to see the opening, the front of the opening cover here, I want to see the spine here, and then the back cover here. So I'm going to press U in the 3D window and I'm going to reset that UV unwrapping. So I'm going to go back to here, I'm going to say U, I'm going to do Smart UV Project, and keep a tick in the correct aspect. I've got an angle limit of 66 degrees, and I'm just going to say OK. And OK, that's not too bad, but it's not really lined up our cover quite as we would expect it, which is a shame. So let's reset that. Let's try it again. This time I'm going to go to clicking on the y-axis. Let's try that from this view. So let's try follow active quads this time. So follow active quads. I'm going to set it to length average and say OK. OK, that's more like what we want. If you have a look in the UV window, at the top left here there's two little arrows, and that means that whatever you have selected in the 3D window will also be selected in the UV editor window. So I'm going to turn that on because I want to see which of my faces is the front cover, and it's telling me that it's this face here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go press C. I'm going to select all of that again. Now my cursor, my 2D, right clicking just to accept that selection. If I pull out this side panel here by clicking on the little triangle, rats, I just undid that, hold on, Control Z. You can set your 3D cursor to where, sorry, your 2D cursor, this little red and white thing. You can set it to wherever you like by clicking on it and then left clicking anywhere. And I'm going to set it down towards the bottom left corner of my UV map there. Now I'm going to rotate this UV map. So I'm going to press the R key. I'm going to press the Control key and keep it pressed. And then I'm going to do nothing. Let's try that again. R for rotate. Press down on Control. Okay, it's not rotating it about the cursor, so I'll right click. So I'm going to go up to this box here and choose 2D cursor. That's the pivot point. So let's try that again. So R for rotate, press down on Control, move the mouse, and you can see that it's now constraining it because I'm using Control, and it's kind of pivoting it around that cursor. So let's zoom out a little bit. I now need to scale that down so that the width of the spine and the front and back cover fits across the width of the UV map. So I'm going to press S, I'm going to scale it down, and then once I've done that I'm going to press the G key and I'm just going to move it on my UV map. I'm going to scale that up a little bit more to try and make good space of the UV map. Now if you look at our book you'll notice it's about almost twice as high as it is wide, so I need to scale this in the Y direction, which is in the kind of on the 2D UV map it's upwards. So I'm going to press S and then I'm going to press the letter Y and then I'm going to scale it up so the book looks about the right height. Right, we've done that. Now I'm deliberately, let's just scale that down a tiny little bit. I'm going to scale that in the Y direction just a tiny little bit. So in other words, if we applied an image or if we loaded an image into this UV map window, you would see it appear on the front and back and the spine of the book. But we've not actually UV unwrapped any of the other bits of the cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap all of these bits that aren't selected. So I'm going to go up to select and I'm going to say invert. So in other words, that's selecting all the bits of the book that we didn't have selected previously. and I'm going to press U, and I'm going to do a reset, and then I'm going to press U again, and I'm going to say follow active quads. Did we do that last time? Oh, it's not letting us do it because it needs a face selected. So I'm just going to make sure I've got an active face selected. Try that again. U. I think, did we do project from view? No, we didn't. I think we did follow active quads. Oh, did we do smart UV project? I think we did smart UV project, didn't we? Let's try that then. Smart UV project, 66 angle limit, correct aspect, press OK. Okay, that's horrible. So let's reset that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just scale that down in the UV window. Scale right down, make it a little square. Then I'm just going to move it up here with the G key. So that's mapped every face into that little square, which we don't necessarily want. What we do want to do is we want to unwrap these pages separately. So I'm going to press A couple of times in the 3D window to deselect everything. I'm going to press C, and I'm just going to select our pages. A bit difficult to see, got to select the bottom as well, so I'm just moving it with my mouse. Right click in to accept the selection. Then we can, with our cursor in the 3D window, we can press U and do a reset on those, and then we can do a U, and we can say smart UV project. Try that. With 66 degree angle limit, correct aspect, okay. Okay, that's what we want. So, and we're going to rotate that around anti-clockwise around the 2D cursor. So we're going to press R, I'm going to press down on the control key and just rotate it around 90 degrees. Then I'm going to press my G key. I'm just going to move it up here, roughly around about there, and then I'm going to press S and I'm going to scale it down, and then press G and scale it down a little bit more. G, maybe scale it down just a little bit more. The reason I'm scaling this down is I want to separate out these various areas, these various sections of pages. So let's just a little bit more. I just want to give myself a bit of space to work. That's not looking too bad. So I want to deselect these this facing pages here. So I'm going to press C. I'm going to use my middle mouse button. I'm just going to deselect those. And if it's not working like that for you in the UV window, it's maybe because you haven't got this. Let me accept that. This keep in sync icon pressed, the UV sync selection. So if you make sure that that is pressed, that is highlighted, then you'll be able to select something on your UV map and see it highlighted on the 3D window. So I'm just going to move that down a little bit. Then I just want to press C. Press C. Deselect that bit. And I'm going to move that. I don't really care where I move it to. Gee, can I do that? No, not let me. Right click to accept the selection. Now I can move it. Yeah, so I could fit that. I could fit that down here somewhere. So let's do that. I'm going to box select this little bit here, and we're just going to move that up with G to the top. Then I'm going to press A a few times to deselect everything. Box select, B for box select, select this one, G, and I'm just going to move that out here. And I could make that bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this side panel, grab my 2D cursor, click down here, press A, box select this section here, press G, move it down. I'm then going to box select all of this spine, or pages rather, press G, move it across towards the cursor. I'm going to press A, box select this top selection and just move it out away from that other bit. Then I can box select again, select everything, and I can press S to scale. It's still scaling from the cursor. So let's move that a little bit. Can I keep it in the right place? I'm going to undo that selection. Let's just scale that down just a tiny little bit. There we go. Okay, so pressing G to move it, and we'll press A and B and move this. Cool. So now we've got something that makes a bit more sense in terms of the UV layout. So now I've done that, I'm going to save this again. I'm going to do File, Save As, and I call it My UV Unwrapped Book, and I'm going to add an _1 to the end of it and say Save As. Right, so we've done that. So let's change back to our properties window. And what I'm going to do is we're going to actually apply an image to these materials. We're going to apply an image to our UV mapping. So I'm going to select the red material. I'm going to change this window header, and I'm going to go to the shader editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this principled BSDF, the red one, and I'm going to press delete on it. And in preferences, if you go to your preferences, edit preferences, just under the add-ons, search for the word node, N-O-D-E, and you need to make sure that you've got a tick in the Node Wrangler add-on, and then you need to save your preferences or make sure it's on autosave. Having done that, we're going to highlight this material output node, and with our cursor in the UV in the shader editor window rather, we're going to press Ctrl T. Excuse me, and that will add in a texture coordinate, a mapping, which is set to point, which is fine, and an image texture node. So we've done that for the red colour. We also need to do it for the white material. So let's go back to our properties panel in the header. Select the white material, hit the header again and say shader editor, and highlight the principled BSDF, press delete, highlight the material output and do another Ctrl T. So that is added in our mapping. Let's switch back to our UV editor window. Now I'm going to say new at the top of the window, take off the alpha, keep it as 1024 by 1024, and under generated type I'm going to say UV grid. Say OK. So let's swap back to the shader editor, and if we have a look, we're doing material 2 at the moment, if you see at the top there. If you have a look at this image texture, we've got a pull down and we can choose that image that we just created, so the untitled image. So we've done that for our material. Let's swap back to material 1, Same thing again. Browse the image, choose untitled. Swap that back to properties now. And the reason I've done that is because I want to make sure that the UV mapping uses the same proportion of the has got the same kind of usage proportions for both the pages and the book. Okay, that's great. So we've done that. So I'm going to finally save this again, do a save as. I'm going to call it my UV Unwrap book number 2. I'll do that as long as I keep my cursor in the right place. Still struggling to do that, of course. So delete. I am actually in the wrong place there. 2. Blend. There we go. So save that. And I think that's all we'll do for today, because I don't want to waffle on for too long. So, and we'll look at finding a nice texture and applying it, and maybe doing a bit more work on the shaders. We might do a specular map. We might do a bump map, something like that. If we can find the right image. So, thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and take care. Happy blendering until next time. Bye for now.